Vinod, a lot of chartered accountants are having a hard time right now. They've also written to the government. What are the challenges that you're facing with filing those returns?
Good evening, everyone. Challenges, I think it's a very small word you're quoting to the tax professionals today and tomorrow. Basically, we are facing a lot of glitches on the portal. I think the government has to look into it, that this doesn't happen. Lots of people are not getting their OTPs for verification from the Aadhaar websites, as well as they are not getting auto-populated their tax paid with the banks. That is taking time. So many things are happening. They are not able to download their annual information statements, not able to download that 26AS from there, the TDS data is auto-populated. So these are the basic requirements for filing a tax return. Otherwise, there can be some mistake. So to avoid any mistake, they have to reconcile all these data with their filing of tax return. But since they are not able to get this on time, and it's taking, practically it's taking hours and hours. I will not agree with Ravi that it can be filed in 7 minutes. It's not possible. And moreover, filing after 7 p.m., that's true that it takes lesser time because lots of people shut down their system and go back to your home. But on the other side, is it really fair to ask the people to work overtime for all these things? And tax professionals are really in trouble due to that.
It looks like tax professionals are in trouble, but also common man, which is in trouble right now because there's just one day to go. What happens in case you miss the deadline, Vinod? Let's say you miss the deadline. A lot of viewers are, hoping to file their income tax returns, I'm sure, within the stipulated deadline. But if they happen to miss the deadline, what is the next course of action?
The course of action, I think I will be taking it later on. In the first part, I will be letting you know if you miss the deadline. The first thing which is new for this time is that you will not be open to opt this old regime under any circumstances, because you have to file your tax return by 31st July tomorrow, or you have to forego the old regime and go for the new regime, the default tax regime. Plus, you have to pay the penalties. That's minimum 1,000 and maximum is 5,000 rupees. If your taxable income is less than 2.5 lakhs rupees, that's the basic exemption limit. Only then there is no penalty. But I don't think that they are not even required to file their returns. So that's the reason the government says if you want to file, it's okay. Otherwise, you have to pay a penalty as well as interest on all the tax due since 1st of April onwards. And moreover, after 31st of July, if you are filing a return, it doesn't being called as an original tax return. It is a belated tax return, which you can file by 31st of December 2024. And after that, even if you miss that, then updated return is another solution which government has now provided, the act has provided in last year, so that you can use for. Otherwise, interest, penalties and prosecutions, lots of things happens after this.
All right, so therefore not advisable to miss the deadline, albeit very short on time. It is advised to not miss that deadline. There'll be interest, there'll be penalties and so on and so forth. Vinod, I know, people are also wondering what should we pay? Should we take services of a chartered accountant? A lot of first-time ITR filers are of the view if they can do it themselves, should they really hire a CA? As a professional CA yourself, do you think every person should go to a CA in order to file their ITRs, or can they do that by themselves sitting at home?
Shweta, you are asking a very complicated question. As a chartered accountant, I kind of can't myself or any chartered accountant to do this. But on the other side, yes, it is true. It's a professional service. There are ways to do every profession. Everybody can, I think, drive a car, but people keep drivers for that, for the professional services. People keep lawyers for that. We go to doctors for the services. But for the accounting and taxation purposes, I think there are professional services are very much required. It's always advisable to go to a professional to get your services. It is not advisable to do this adventure at your own. Okay. But still, if you feel there is nothing much to do, yes, you can very much do that sort of
issue. Let us come to some of the nitty-gritties at this point, Vinod. We talked about missing deadline, but we're also, hearing of a lot of people facing a lot of issue with respect to some very technical questions with respect to, how to really file that income tax return. So those who are lost in technicality, break it down to us. What is the process of really filing income tax return?
Process of filing income tax return is very simple. It's not a cumbersome, as Ravi has rightly said. It's a user-friendly portal now. There is no doubt about it. You can even, you get a pre-filled data on the website itself. So there is nothing special in that, that you're not, it is your bank account which shows the complications. It is the transactions which you are doing with every year. For the throughout the year, you are doing the transactions, and that makes your case simple or complicated. If you are getting only salary, you are getting very less interest income and all that, you can very easily file this. I don't find any nitty-gritties in this, and nothing special in that. But if you are handling capital gains, you are dealing in stocks, you are dealing in cryptocurrencies, then certainly you need to take the help of someone.
Vinod, if I am somebody who's looking to file income tax return today, the options that I have is, of course, under the new tax regime and the old tax regime. The tax regime announced in the budget is not applicable for this time around. It will be for next time. Just to clarify for our viewers right now, what tax regime should one be opting for? If that's the question that people have in mind, what tax regime should they be opting for?
Just look, you have to look for the both, you have to compare the numbers. This is nothing that one case can be fitting for the old one, or this old regime for the one person, and the new for the other one.
Okay.
So mostly, if you see, the most of the cases, the new tax regime is beneficial, even with the tax slabs which were announced earlier and applicable for this year. Still, if you find the new tax regime is really beneficial for you, old tax regime is beneficial for those cases in which cases you are claiming some HRA, you are claiming some kind of exemptions and deductions under Section 10 or Section 80, then it is really beneficial to you. If you are claiming Section 24 deduction of housing loan interest on self-occupied property, because under new regime, no deductions or exemptions are available except only standard deduction and NPS tier 2 of 50,000 rupees. So if you have to compare the numbers under both the categories, and if you find any regime beneficial to you, for salaried class, you can choose n number of time, you can jumble up this way or that way. But for the businessman, there is only one option. He can just once off and come back, not again and again. So you have to be very careful and see which is beneficial for you.
All right. So you compare the two, whichever is beneficial, you file your tax return under that income tax regime. Now, a lot of housewives also wonder, who are not employed, people sitting at home who are not possibly employed right now, whether they should be filing their income tax return or not. What is your suggestion?
Well, if you have an income, of 2.5 lakh rupees from any source, the 5 sources that this Income Tax Act prescribes to us, if you have income from any source, then you have to file it. And in addition to that, if you have certain kinds of expenditure, like you are making expenses on foreign travels, you are paying electricity bill up to a certain amount, you are depositing certain amounts in your saving bank account or current account, you have to file your tax return. This is applicable to you, irrespective of your income is below taxable limit or more, but certainly you have to file your taxable limit. So now you are a housewife, you are not making any income, no need to file any income tax return. But you have received any amount from anyone, which can tantamount to income, yes, you have to be careful and file your tax return.
And, I want to take this question once again back to Vinod. Vinod, a lot of people say that if I already am paying a TDS, if my tax is getting deducted at source, and if my company or the organization that I'm working for is already doing it, what is the need for me to really file a return?
You have asked a very important question, which is generally in people's mind when they talk to us. In case of TDS, basically the 10% TDS is deducted in most of the items, as well as in some of the items now it is 5%, which is now getting reduced to other X. And your tax liability is dependent on your tax slabs. If you are earning less than the taxable limit, and even if there is a deduction, you will file a return and take your money back. This is refundable to you. And on the other side, if your income is more than 15 lakhs rupees from all other sources, like your salaries and all that, and you have it deposits, and the TDS is being deducted, so certainly you have to pay more tax, because 10% is only deducted, whereas the tax liability is under more percentage, it is more than 30%. So you have to pay 20% from your side also. So yes, that you can know. First you have to assess your tax liability by adding all of your income from all sources. Then you have to deduct whatever taxes has been already paid by you, either by TDS or withholding your tax collection at source, or by advance tax yourself. So you have to reduce those taxes out of the tax liability which comes out to you. That will tell you whether you are liable to pay more tax or you are eligible to take a refund. So you have to make the whole calculation. Only then you will come to know this it is payable or refundable. Otherwise, it's not only this that your TDS has been deducted, you don't need to file a return. It is a wrong myth. I think one has to come out of it.
Vinod, I'm running short on time, but a quick question to you right now is that I'm sure you are inundated with a lot of queries right now and you are filing those last minute refunds. If you were to look at numbers with respect to and really compare it to the number of tax filers last time around, are you hopeful that more people are now filing income tax returns as opposed to last year? Is there more work this time around compared to last year? Just wanting to get a sense from you if the tax net is really expanding.
Yes, we are expecting a 20% growth of taxpayer numbers this year, honestly, because if you really see that your stock market is booming, you are getting more and more people from there. They have gained from the stock market and they have to file their tax returns. So that number has risen a lot. As well as we have noticed that there are certain people who have made money from other sources like crypto also, and even salaries has increased as compared to 2023. We are noticing that the salaries are gone and lots of people have come into the tax net this year. So at least I'm expecting 20% more filers this year who will be filing more returns, and certainly the government is going to get more and more revenue.
Absolutely. 20% increase in returns, that is the expectation? Yes, Vinod?
One thing I'd add, Shweta, if you permit me, that as Ravi was telling, that if you are filing your tax return now, and if you don't file by 31st of July, you will not be able to revise your return. And if you get the notices of that sort, that will create a problem for you. So even for those kinds of cases, it is really advisable to file your tax return before or on the due date, so you get an opportunity to revise your tax return in case if any defective notices or some comes.